Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In my last video, I asked for ideas of videos that I should be making going forward. One of the ideas that kept popping up was saving for your kids' college. And since that was something that I myself was looking into, I decided that after all my research, I would make a video or maybe multiple videos about it. In this video in particular, I'm going to cover 529 plans, what they are, how they work, the different kinds of plans available, and all the ins and outs of what I found useful information. For each plan, I'm going to cover the intended purpose of the plan, the tax benefits, what constitutes as qualified expenses, the availability and restrictions of the plan, how the investments in the plan are meant to work, and the costs and limits that come with those plans. But before we get into the different 529 plans and what it all entails, I have to announce the giveaway winner first. Thank you to all who commented on my last video and left me ideas. To all of my new subscribers, hi everyone, my name is Lisbeth and I make videos that help you plan for a better financial future while living your best life today. So if that is something that interests you, make sure that you are subscribed to my channel and that you have that notification bell turned on so that you never miss a new video. So I put all of the entries, including the bonus entries, into this wheel website. It included all of them, and then I press start. And the winner of the $100 Amazon gift card is Cheyenne Dominguez. I hope I said your name right. Cheyenne. Yeah? Okay. I hope I said that right. Cheyenne, if you are watching this video, make sure that you send me a DM with your email information so that I can email you directly that $100 Amazon gift card. And congratulations! If you entered my Instagram giveaway, then make sure you go on over to my Instagram and look for this post right here where I announce the winner of that giveaway. One last thing I want to quickly mention before we get into the video. I am starting my one-on-one money coaching beta program. I've done money coaching in the past, but now that I'm not working a full-time job and my maternity leave is about to be up, in my mind at least, I want to start getting back into money coaching because I really, truly enjoy doing it. It's going to be a 3-month program. It'll have 1-hour monthly calls and 15 to 30 minute weekly check-ins. If you've considered the idea of money coaching and you like the way that I teach stuff here on YouTube, or you've checked out my Instagram, there will be a link in the description box that you can click. It takes you to a little survey that you can fill out, and you will be the first one to know when spots are available. I will only be taking 4 people for the 4th quarter of the year, and then from there, depending on how it all works out, I'll see if I'm going to increase the amount of people I take for the beginning of the new year. However, the price for the 4th quarter of this year is going to be the cheapest price that I will ever offer my money coaching services for. Just because I'm using this to kind of figure out a more streamlined process for what I want it to look going forward, not because I'm going to dedicate any less time to you. I'll leave the link in the description box below. Feel free to go and check it out. Or if you have any additional questions about what it is, what I'll do, or me in particular, feel free to leave me a comment down below, send me an email, or go to my Instagram or Facebook and send me a direct message there. I'll be happy to answer any questions. So without further ado, let's get into the 529 plans. Okay, so first off, where do 529 plans come from? So the 529 plans are legally known as qualified tuition plans, and they are sponsored by states, state agencies, or educational institutions. And the whole 529 name comes from the fact that they are Section 529 of the Internal Revenue Code. Now, all 50 states and the District of Columbia sponsor some type of 529 plan. So if you're in the United States, you will have the option of a 529 plan. There are 2 types of 529 plans. The first and most common one is the 529 Education Savings Plan, and the other one is called the Prepaid Tuition Plan. Now, the purpose of the Education Savings Plan is that it lets you put money into an account that it will be used to pay for educational expenses, qualified educational expenses, which we will get into in just a second. Now, the intended purpose of the prepaid tuition plan is that it lets you prepay all or part of the cost of an in-state public college education and mandatory fees. And each state that offers this has a list of the colleges that are available under their prepaid tuition plan. Now, there is also a non-state sponsored prepaid tuition plan called the Private College 529, it allows account holders to lock in the current tuition rates at close to 300 private colleges and universities that are listed on its website. And I'll make sure to include any links that I talk about down in the description box below as well. Now, as far as tax benefits, they both hold the same tax benefits. The funds in both of these plans grow tax deferred, and withdrawals from either plan that are used for the beneficiary's qualified education expenses are completely income tax free at the federal level. Now, also, it's good to note that over 30 states, including DC, offer some type of state income tax reduction on the money that you put into these accounts. However, there might be restrictions when it comes to you having to put that money into one of your state's plans. Some states do allow you to get the tax benefit from your state even if you choose a different state's plan. So make sure that before you assume that your state offers you an income tax credit, make sure that you check out your individual state's rules on that. Okay, so what constitutes as qualified expenses? For the 529 savings plans, you can use up to $10,000 per beneficiary per year for tuition cost of a K through 12 private, public, or religious school. The savings plan also allows you to use the funds for qualified colleges or universities. There are even some non-US colleges and universities that are covered as well, and that is for tuition, books and materials, room and board, computers, and related equipment. And you must be enrolled at least part-time for you to also qualify. Now, one of the last things it offers, and this is relatively new, is that it allows you to use up to $10,000, and this is a lifetime limit, for you to pay off some student loans. Now, I don't quite understand what the point of this would be if you essentially have this education savings plan to pay for the cost of your education, but if for whatever reason you decide to take on loans at the beginning and not use your savings plan afterwards, you can pay off up to $10,000 on those loans using this. Now, as far as qualified expenses for the prepaid tuition plan, those funds cannot be used for future room and board at the university or college that you attend, and you are not allowed to use this money to pay for any kind of elementary or secondary education. The prepaid tuition plan is solely used to pay for future tuition costs and any kind of administrative fees that come with it. As far as availability and restrictions on these plans, on the 529 savings plan, you can invest in almost any state-sponsored 529 savings plan, not just in your own state. Now, for example, I live in Texas, and the fact that I don't have any state income tax means that I am more likely to invest in another state's. So I did make sure to research other states' plans because choosing my particular plan did not give me any kind of tax benefits since I don't pay any income tax. Now, if you pay income tax to your state and you would benefit from putting money into a 529 plan, if it has to be their state's plan, then make sure that you calculate whether or not it would be a good idea for you to do that. Or you may live in a state that allows you to invest into any other state's plan while still getting the tax benefit. The great thing about the savings plan as well is that you can open this plan anytime. Versus the prepaid tuition plan, you have to wait until open enrollment is available, and those usually last a few months. Also, some of those state prepaid tuition plans require you to be a resident of the state, whether it be you or the beneficiary. In the case of Texas, they do require for either myself or the beneficiary to be a resident of the state of Texas in order for me to open them a prepaid tuition plan. Now, this obviously varies state by state. And lastly, based on an article I read on Investopedia, I think I said that right. Based on that article, which was published in February of this year, they did say that the number of states offering prepaid tuition plans are decreasing. So as of that date, only 11 states offered some kind of prepaid tuition plan. This is also why they're not as common or as popular, because there's not that many states that offer it. Now let's get into how the investments work for each of these plans. In the case of the 529 savings plans, you are putting your money into this account and you are choosing what kind of investments you want to have. Now, depending on the plan you choose, they will give you some kind of flexibility. They might allow you to choose particular investment options, or most of them will offer you some kind of target date fund where they're essentially the ones doing all the work. You're just saying, hey, I have 10 years until my child goes to college, do what is best for those 10 years, and they kind of take it from there. Other plans allow you to pick and choose which funds use to create your investment portfolio, and therefore, based on the portfolio mix that you choose, your investments will grow accordingly. That growth is what will be tax deferred when it comes time for you to withdraw it. For example, say I put in $10,000 between now and the time my child goes to college, and at the end of that time when it's time to withdraw, it is now worth $20,000. I already paid taxes for $10,000 of those dollars when I put them in because it is money that I put in after taxes. Now, the $10,000 growth, that is what I will not be charged taxes on once I start withdrawing it, because that is the perk of putting your money into these kinds of plans. Obviously, keep in mind that no investment in a savings plan is guaranteed. You could lose any and all of the money that you've contributed to this plan, based, of course, on the stock market. But historically speaking, the long-term growth of the plans will allow you a decent return on your investment. So the difference with the prepaid tuition plan is that you're handing over your money and you're allowing them to completely manage what they think will give them the most growth. You don't have say in where they should be investing that money, what index funds they should use, what target growth fund they should be putting your money in. Like, you have nothing to say about that. They handle all of that. Your main concern comes to how many credit hours you want to purchase and in what tier you want to purchase them in. This whole tier system is a little bit more complicated than I want to try to explain here, but go look into any particular state's prepaid tuition plan. And it'll show you, it'll kind of break it down as far as like what each tier represents or what it will give you in value, and therefore how many of these credits you will need to give them a certain kind of education. So obviously, the more credits you buy at a higher tier, the more likely you are to be set as far as being able to send your child to the best public school that they offer without having to pay out of pocket. And they're giving you at the price of today, so essentially you're saving the difference of what it will cost in the future. Now, although they're saying that if you buy X amount of credits today, it will cover the same amount of credits in the future, please keep in mind that this is still money going into an investment account. And therefore, many prepaid tuition plans do not come with a legal guarantee that they will be fully funded by the state in the event of a shortfall. So just because they're saying that that's what it's going to cover today, that doesn't mean that 18 years from now, when your child's actually going to college, they cannot just change that up and tell you that it's actually worth less, because there's nowhere in the law that says that they have to guarantee what they're selling to you today. So take that for what it's worth too. Now, as far as the cost and the limits of how much you can put towards these plans, when it comes to the education savings plan, most plans have a very low initial contribution that you have to make. For the most part, all the ones that I researched didn't require more than like $25 to open the account. Some of them required no money to open them, and I don't think I saw one that was above that $25 mark. And then after that, it's pretty much up to you how much you want to contribute. There's no say in when and how you can contribute. You can contribute what you want and when you want. Also, there are no age limits or income limits or even annual contribution limits. Now, even though there are no annual contribution limits, there are lifetime contribution limits. And each plan varies. They are as low as like $230,000, and some of them allow you to contribute up to over $500,000. So once again, it depends on the plan you choose. Now, of course, because they are investments, there is going to be a cost to you putting money into this account. The education savings plan, it depends on the types of investments that you choose. If you are one to choose each individual fund for your account, then it will tell you the expense ratio for that fund. If you choose a target-based fund, then they will tell you what that cost is. In every case, the lower the cost, the better, because something that can eat up your investments quite quickly is if the expense ratio is really high. This is definitely one of those factors that contributed big time when it came to what plan I ended up choosing, and I will go more into detail with that in my next video. Now, as far as prepaid tuition plans, when it comes to the cost and the limits for that one, there might be an enrollment or application fee, and they might even require you to purchase like an X number of credits in order for them to open that account. I think when I looked into the Texas one, they required for me to buy at least one credit and then an initial like administrative fee. Don't quote me on that, but I know that I had to buy a certain amount of credits if I wanted to go that route. And of course, there's going to be ongoing administration fees. Now, if you choose to do the prepaid tuition plan, you can do one lump sum where you can essentially pay for the entire amount of credits that you want up front. But if you're thinking about it kind of like the savings plan, the 529 savings plan, then you might be thinking more of a pay-as-you-go kind of thing. So in that case, keep in mind that the cost of each credit is going to continue to go up the closer you get to when your child's meant to go to school. For example, if this enrollment period, it costs $150 to purchase a credit, then every time you purchase a credit, you'll be purchasing it for $150. Come next year or next enrollment period, they'll change up the numbers and say, oh, now it's worth $160 because every year tuition's going up. So next year, you're going to be purchasing credits for $160 instead of $150 that you paid today. So when it comes to those prepaid tuition plans, if you know for a fact that you're going to want your child to go to an in-state college, a public one at least. For example, I'm from Texas. I went to the University of Texas in Austin, and I really want my child to go to UT in Austin as well. You know, I can essentially buy that prepaid tuition plan and purchase the amount of credits that it would take to go to the University of Texas, and I'll know that my child will be able to attend that school no matter how much it costs. The hard part with that is that you don't know if your child's going to want to go to that school or to any school in the state. And therefore, if a beneficiary doesn't attend a participating college or university of that prepaid tuition plan, the prepaid tuition plan may end up paying you less than what the credits are actually worth. So in the end, if they choose to go that route, it may only pay a small return on the original investment. That is definitely something to consider when choosing this plan. Okay, so that is pretty much the difference in the factors that I mentioned. And I also want to make a couple of additional notes when it comes to these 529 plans. Now, say you chose one plan or the other, and a couple years down the road, you decide that maybe it wasn't the best decision. Maybe that plan was not the best plan. You are allowed to roll over the funds that you have in an existing 529 plan to another 529 plan, whether it be a savings plan or a prepaid tuition plan. You're allowed to do this once per calendar year without penalty. However, the beneficiary must stay the same. Okay, so take a deep breath and don't think that just because you choose one, you're completely stuck forever and ever and ever. That's not the case. Another thing to note is that the funds that you deposit into those accounts are yours. You already paid taxes on them, and therefore you can always withdraw those funds for any purpose. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is that anything that you have earned are subject to a penalty fee of 10% and will also result in ordinary income taxes. And this is for the earnings portion that you take out that are not used for qualified expenses. Now, there are exceptions to taking that money out and not being charged the 10% penalty fee. And I'll leave the list of the exceptions right here for you so that you can go over them if you need to. In that case, the 10% penalty fee will be waived. However, that earnings portion will still be subject to income tax. So even if you have an exception, you're still going to be taxed on the growth of the money in that account. Now, if you want to avoid paying the penalty fee and the income tax because your beneficiary did not end up using those funds for any of the reasons that I mentioned or others, the only option is for you to transfer this money over to a qualifying family member of the beneficiary, not of yourself, of the beneficiary. So in the list of those qualifying family members, I will list for you right here as well. All in all, I hope you can understand why these 529 plans are so popular, especially for parents like me who have student loans and know the burden that it is to carry those student loans. The last thing I want are for my children to end up with student loans as well. So I am definitely very interested in making sure that we save up enough money for their college education in the future. It might not be college, it might be a trade school, it might be community college to start and then getting transferred over to a university. Obviously, there's many different ways that they can go about an education nowadays. And the good thing about, at least for the savings plan, is that you can use that money for pretty much any furthering education, whether that be a regular college, a university, a trade school, an apprenticeship. There's a bunch of different options for it. So in case you kind of haven't guessed which account I ended up opening, make sure you stick around and watch my next video where I will go into depth about which plan I went with, which state's plan I chose, why I chose it, so on and so forth. So I hope you found that information helpful. If you have any additional questions about 529 plans, feel free to leave me a comment down below and I'll try my best to give you an answer for it. I plan on furthering this discussion on my Instagram and Facebook, so if you haven't joined me there already, I'll leave those for you here. And lastly, before I let you go, remember there's a link down below if you're interested on my one-on-one money coaching that starts in October. That's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please make sure that you like this video, comment, share it with your friends, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye, guys.